Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living your life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Well, welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Hey, my friends, welcome back to the show, and welcome to the sixth installment in this new series. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment and check in on you. How are you doing? I know things are very chaotic and uncertain out there. The world has kind of gone insane at the moment with all kinds of strange things happening, and that can take a toll on everyone. And it's common to feel frustrated, to feel burnt out, to feel confused. That's okay. If you encounter any of that, you feel any of that, I most certainly assure you, you are not alone. And I hope the material that I'm sharing here has a positive message that is capable of containing some sort of help in brightening your outlook on life. As I stated, I know things are chaotic and uncertain, but if each of us focuses on improving ourselves in various ways right now, instead of allowing the fear and uncertainty to consume us, we have the opportunity for great spiritual expansion. After all, this is the year of the tiger, and that energy lends itself to personal power. So what we focus on this year is going to be very important. Do your best to make it something positive. So let's take a moment to have a seat, sit back with a cup of tea or coffee, whichever you prefer. Take a few deep breaths and relax. Take a moment, if you can. Just close your eyes. Take some deep breaths. And think about something positive, something that will make you smile. Allow that smile to come over your face. And just for a moment, let everything else go. All right, let's go ahead and get to it. In the previous two installments, I offered some insights into the 7 virtues that can make us far better human beings. And right now is a perfect indication that all of us could be much better human beings. I truly feel that right now, these virtues are more important than they have ever been at any point in time. I hope that you have been consciously working to bring these virtues into your own life and make them part of who you are and who you desire to become. As a way of helping you do this, I'd like to share some personal examples of how I have come to interact with these virtues, just sharing some personal experience to give you a little bit better perspective. I'm hoping you may be able to relate to some of what I'll share, but please understand, I'm not saying that I'm so righteous as to embody all of these virtues at all times. I drop the ball often. But I do my best to consciously apply them to my life and live by them as much as I possibly can, and I'm always seeking to improve how much I can do that. One thing that I have found very beneficial is remaining mindful of these virtues and creating a mental filter for myself. In this way, I pass each thought through the filter of the 7 virtues to make sure I should even say it or act upon it. And in so doing, speak and act with virtue. I'll explain this simple and easy process as we go. So let's get into it, shall we? Number 1, respect. We need to remember that as we embody each one of these 7 virtues, each one allows us to expand a little more and a little more. When I was young, I didn't have a lot of guidance in the area of respect. I was a very disrespectful teenager, especially as my ego grew out of a sense of self-protection for the way that I grew up at one point in time. It was my grandfather, who I dedicated my first book to, that stepped in and helped me immensely in the area of learning good manners, self-respect, and how to conduct myself with a sense of respect towards others. The martial arts also helped me to become more respectful, but it wasn't until I met my sword teacher in Japan who taught me what real respect was on a much greater level. When he requested that I be his personal student, I was so honored. However, he also taught me to grasp the virtue of respect on an entirely different level, that of the samurai. As a descendant of the Aizu samurai clan, he taught me what respect actually meant to the samurai and how to live by that degree of respect. It is something I rarely see here in the United States. But I found that as I extended a greater sense of respect to others, that it allowed me to expand. And by that, what I mean is this: I distinctly felt, and still feel to this day, a sense of connection, of oneness, instead of individualism and separateness. Whenever I am offering some aspect of respect, a gesture, a word, something respectful, always allows me to feel more connected to the moment, to the situation, but also to anyone I am paying respects to. To this day, even if I am training alone, I still bow out of respect to photos of my teachers, because it is for them that I will be eternally grateful. Being respectful also teaches us to curb the ego. The more we overcome the ego, the greater sense of respect we have for others, we have for ourselves, and we can share. Remember that mental filter I talked about? Well, this is what you do. When you are in a situation that you are about to speak or take some sort of action, before you do, as a thought passes through your mind, ask yourself, is my response, what I'm about to say, what I'm about to do, is it respectful? If so, then continue. Say it or do it. If not, then remain quiet and refrain from taking that action. Now, yes, this requires a sense of mindfulness and the ability to rise above your emotions and your ego so that you are not controlled by them. But it's still a pretty simple and easy process through which to start to embody these virtues. Virtue number 2, integrity. Earlier in my life, I confused moral rightness with a sense of self-righteousness. Again, we can relate that to the ego, right? Over time and through martial arts training, I became better at taking responsibility for myself and for understanding the difference between moral rightness and self-righteousness. And again, this gave me a sense of personal and spiritual expansion, because self-righteousness is ego, and that's always when we are in a state of contraction in our head, where when we understand moral rightness, that is expansion, and we can live in the world and share that with the world that way. Over time, I even developed a greater sense of sincerity in my words and actions, and I became very clear on what moral principles I would live my life by. Now, this took me quite a while to actually get down, but this is incredibly important. It was once that I actually knew how I was going to live my life, what I would accept and what I would no longer accept in my life, that I learned how to live in a sense of authenticity. And for me, personally, this was huge, because previously I had very little sense of authenticity. And at that time, I had very little as far as moral principles through which to guide my life, which would have been incredibly helpful since I was on my own since the age of 16. I've found that becoming clear on our own personal set of moral principles is absolutely crucial. And as I took to heart the idea of saying what I meant and meaning what I said, I was able to better embody this virtue. The idea is to make your word worth something. Through this, you will absolutely feel yourself in a state of expansion. We can once again apply the filter here, doing the same with integrity. The idea is to ultimately use this filter to check anything you're going to say or do against all 7 of these virtues. But here we are speaking of integrity. So you want to pass your thoughts through the filter of integrity, making sure that everything you are about to say and everything you are about to do is done so with integrity. Virtue number 3, honesty. This seems pretty basic on the face of it, but just how honest are you? Like most, before the spiritual training, I lacked the ability to be honest with myself. I really struggled with this. As a matter of fact, I didn't even understand how bad this was until I underwent a practice of looking at how much I ended up lying to myself every day. It was sobering, to say the least. Honesty begins with our ability to be honest with ourselves. It is what prepares us to be honest with others. And when we are speaking and acting out of honesty, it's definitely an expansive experience. You feel so light. You feel as though a weight is lifted off of you. And even though it isn't always easy to be honest, it is always the right thing. And this one is challenging for people, but especially tough for Westerners, as it was for me at first, because of an additional layer of shared responsibility. And this is part of honesty in Japanese culture. In our culture, a culture of individualism, this becomes quite difficult to not only observe, but to carry out, because everyone else is acting out of a state of individualism where you are acting in a shared state. So it doesn't always coalesce. But I still do my best to have this sense of shared responsibility in the things that I say and the things that I do. Obviously, living in a state of individualism is to be in contraction. And when we can live with more shared responsibility, when we can live by taking others into consideration, having some empathy, that is a state of expansion. It allows us to connect more deeply to our own humanity and to other human beings through thinking of the whole and not just ourselves. I became very aware of respecting others and being honest with others, and taking a shared responsibility this way allowed me to be far more mindful and courteous to others. For example, when many Americans go to another country, we try to force our habitual behaviors into that culture. We expect it, where they usually don't even fit in. Instead of adapting to the ways of the country we're in, we try to force our old behaviors because we believe they are the right way. This is, of course, not true. Through traveling to a number of different countries and spending a lot of time in Japan, I have really come to understand the incredible value of shared responsibility in society and how it definitely coincides with honesty. So next time you visit another country, or even another state for that matter, observe and see what you can do to try to fit in with the way people are living there, the way they eat, the way they conduct themselves, things they say. Try to fit in instead of standing out. This is the idea of shared responsibility. And don't confuse this with like being a sheeple or something. It's more getting along with people. A lot of people you don't know, will never know, you probably wouldn't like anyway if you did, but you can get along with them. We can function in society all the same. That's what this is about. And then, once again, use the filter. Pass anything you're about to say or any action you are about to take through the filter of honesty. Do my words carry a sense of honesty and shared responsibility? Is my behavior carrying a sense of honesty and shared responsibility? These are wonderful questions to ask ourselves, especially when we aren't in our own home. Virtue number 4, honor. Now, as I said previously, this is a fairly foreign concept to most people these days. In my opinion, the martial arts are the very best way to develop this incredible virtue. Yes, I'm a bit biased, but it's still true. Before getting involved in the martial arts, I had a very little for understanding of this virtue. Modern sports martial arts teach it to some degree, and that's where I started. But the traditional Japanese martial arts teach this to a much greater extent than any other I have found. Honor is an excellent virtue, as long as we do not allow it to involve the ego. This is what I learned is the real challenge in living with honor. We have to be willing to speak up and stand up for the things that we believe in, for what is right. But we have to be able to do so without ego, and we have to make sure it is not being caused by ego. This is the tricky part when it comes to honor. And this is why it's so important to have your moral compass developed before you have to question yourself on these things. That's kind of necessary. You have to understand what principles you're going to live by before you know what you're going to stand up for. When we discuss honor, there are many manifestations of this. As I have stated, it is upholding our moral principles that we live by, and we have to conduct ourselves accordingly. You know, it's pretty common to see men taking advantage of women or just anyone taking advantage of someone else as a way to get over on them. These things are not honorable. We need to conduct ourselves with a greater sense of honor and not use one another this way. When we put the mental filter to use in terms of honor, we pass everything we say through that filter in order to make sure what we are going to say is honorable. Likewise with our actions. This is the big one. We need to stop and take a pause and make sure that the actions we are about to take are indeed honorable. Virtue number 5, loyalty. It seems everyone is searching for a cause these days. Something that allows them to stand on a soapbox and scream and yell and throw a tantrum about what they believe or what they feel or what their opinion is on something. However, this is not loyalty. I understand searching for a cause. We all have to have some sort of cause and some people that we are loyal to. This sense of loyalty allows us to be more expansive. If we have no one in our life that we feel loyal to, it leaves us in a state of contraction. Being loyal to a cause is a great thing, but we need to be very, very cautious of that cause and make sure it is just. We have to make sure it's not some twisted logic insanity which is running rampant out there, especially now. Loyalty is something we need to have in a wide variety of ways. I've learned to be loyal to myself. I've learned to understand what I will and will not allow in my life anymore. I've also learned to be loyal to certain people. The relationship with my wonderful wife is the strongest of all of these loyalties. I am and forever will be fiercely and 100% loyal to her. I've learned to have a sense of loyalty for my community by supporting my favorite local businesses and the fantastic people they employ. I've also learned to be loyal to my teachers and what they had to share. I'm loyal to the schools, to the arts, that they have so graciously shared with someone like me. When my sword teacher asked me not to train with certain people or in certain other arts or schools, I agreed. I told him I would not. To this day, I have not and I will not. When he further asked me to take an oath not to mix the various martial arts styles he taught me together, I accepted. I haven't, and I won't, because I am loyal to him, and I am loyal to what he taught me. Through this sense of loyalty, I can continue to serve him. And when we act in service of others through loyalty, we definitely get a taste of expansion. And once again, you can apply the filter here. Is what I am about to say acting in a sense of loyalty to myself and to anyone else involved? Are my actions about to support that sense of loyalty or act against it? Doing this gives us a very clear indication of what we should or should not do. Okay, I hope this is helping. We'll continue through the rest of these in the next installment. Until then, I hope you're taking it easy. Take time to relax. Take time to smile. Take time to let go of the insanity that's out there in the world right now. Take a moment and enjoy your life. This is the time of your life. Don't let it slip by. Don't throw it away. And please remember to visit me at www.expansionmastery.com. Get autographed copies of Expansion Mastery there. It's the only place you can get authentically signed copies. Make sure you check out all the other goodies that are there. And, of course, help us out on social media. Do all the shares, likes, subscribes, the little bell things, all that kind of stuff that's going on. Help us out with that. We always appreciate it. And as always, I wish you the very best in your practices. And, of course, your life. Take care.